All right, folks, welcome to the game week. We're going to keep Coach Dave for 20 minutes. We're going to open up front row, middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, what's different about their defense this year under Jesse Minter? It looks very similar, but I'm sure there's been some tweaks. What stands out maybe that's different from last year's defense?
Very similar. Like you said, a few tweaks here and there, but still very good players. And, they're playing very hard and, one of the best defenses in the country.
Second row, middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
A couple weeks ago, you were talking about Ty Hamilton, might have been last week, and you used this phrase, starter caliber. I was curious on the other side of the ball. How close are you to using that term with Dallin Hayden? And is he someone that you're confident enough in after the last 2 weeks to rely on him in a big way?
Yeah, hard to say, but to see the way he stepped up last week was certainly tremendous and encouraging as we move into this rivalry week. And great to see him taking care of the football. That's the number one thing we need. And so he'll have to have a good week of practice. And, I know he's going to prepare hard to get ready to play in this game.
Fourth row, middle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, similarly, like you guys, there's questions about who's healthy on their side of the ball, specifically Blake Corum. How do you go into this week with questions about a running back that's so important to their offense? How do you guys prepare? And do you have to do anything different if he's not on the field?
He's a great player. We're going to prepare for him to play. We expect him to play. And, we'll just do the best we can. They're a very good offense. They have plenty of running backs, plenty of good players. So while he is very, very good, we'll just continue to prepare for all of them.
Fourth row left, Jacob Bench, the Lantern.
Hey, Ryan, of course, Saturday is the first version of the game in Columbus since 2018, and most of the undergraduate body at Ohio State hasn't seen that on campus, or as a student, including myself. So just wanted to get your thought on that and how it's the first game between your team and their team, first time 40.
Yeah, 4 years. It's been a while, and being the 100th year anniversary is going to mean a lot more to a lot of people. On Saturday, we understand that, and there's nothing like quite like the game, and certainly have learned, so much over, my time here at Ohio State about what this tradition means to so many across the country, and that's why we work the game so hard and take a lot of pride in being our best here. And this is our number one goal every season.
Front row left, Jared Smalley, WCMH.
Hi, Ryan. How much, I don't know if you can qualify this, but how much of the mentality of this team is shaped off what happened in Ann Arbor last year?
Well, I think you're shaped by whatever's happened in your past, and we have scars, and it motivated us all off season. So we've worked very hard to get to this moment right here, and now it's time to go prepare the best we can, and that's what we're going to focus on, physically, mentally, and emotionally, to go play the hardest game we've ever played. And we'll find out where we're at on Saturday.
Third row left, Dan Holt, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, in terms of the running back situation of Travion and Ryan, how much does that balance of how much they'll play on Saturday come down to how much they're able to practice during the week?
You're in week 12 here, so it's not like it's early in the season. These guys are experienced, so I think early in the year you'd say, well, if they hadn't practiced all week, it's gonna be hard for them to play in a game. We'd like for them to practice, and we're going to plan on them to practice. But if they miss a little bit here and there to get healthy to go play in the game, then we'll adjust accordingly. But these are veteran players who have played a lot of football.
Third row middle, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, one advantage of Michigan's media day being yesterday is we get to follow up on what Jim Harbaugh says, which is usually a lot. He says there's no room for hate. This doesn't have to be hate in this game. But is there room for dislike, strong dislike? Where are you on this?
Well, it's one of the greatest rivalries there is in the country. And anytime you're fighting tooth and nail to win the game because of what's on the line, there's friction at times. It's just the way it works. And, we try to just focus on ourselves, focus on respecting the rivalry by working it every day out of the year, and going to go play as hard as we possibly can on Saturday.
You said this is the toughest game you'll have ever played. Is this a referendum a little bit on what you guys are and the whole issue as it'll come to the surface?
Well, I just think, I think about my first year being the head coach here, and one of the first things we started off the whole press conference was it comes down to this game, and then you have to win every game after it. So it's not changed. It's been like this for 100 years here. So I get it. But obviously this is a great opportunity. Both teams are undefeated, two top, three teams in the country going together at the end of the year. That's what it's all about.
Right behind him, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
So Ryan, this is your fourth year. You've been in the playoffs twice, championship game. You lose to Michigan last year, and you have so many questions, so many people questioning physicality, the toughness of the program. What's that been like?
Well, I think, when you focus on this year and the things that have been done, you've seen a lot of good play. You've seen us really work towards this moment right here. Listen, when you lose this game, it's a tough year. There's no hiding from that, but there's only one way to handle it. That's to go back to work, address the issues that you think need to get addressed. So when you go back to play the game, you're ready to roll. So we got, a few more days here to get ready to prepare, but up until this moment, we've done everything we can to get to this moment right here and be ready to go. And so, when you get to play on Saturday, you get to play with a lot of confidence because you've been working towards this moment for so long. And then you go play as hard as you possibly can.
How many of the changes with the coaching staff or whatever happened because of that game?
I don't know if I could give you a number, but this is, we're evaluated by, the big games. That's the way it goes here. And certainly we know what comes with it.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals 97.1.
Ryan, it didn't look good for Matthew Jones on Saturday. I don't know what his status is, but if you have to make a move there, it seems like an interesting decision because Josh could kick inside. It seems like he's been the sixth guy. Enoch's been maybe the first at guard. I know you have a week of practice to the decision to make, but what do you think might be the best way forward there?
Yeah, if need be, you got a couple options right there that we'll work through during the week and figure out if we do need to go to depth, who to choose. And a lot of that have to do with how the week goes and how Matt's feeling and how well those guys do and pick up the game plan.
How much ability do you think Josh has to play inside or outside there?
He's done it before. He's mostly been a tackle this year, but he's played on the tight end. You've seen him do that. He played at guard at some points in last year, sometimes the year before. So he has some experience going inside and outside.
Second row right, Doug Lane Reese, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, in your career, what have you found the balance when it comes to revenge? When it comes to a game that you lost and now you're getting another shot, both in the year-long preparation for that and then the feelings of the guys on game day? What's your experience with that? What's the best way to handle it?
Well, I think you can't just get yourself going the week of. You have to build and try to recognize the things that you need to get better at and then address them, get them fixed so that when you're there again, you're more prepared for the moment. And that's really the focus of it. And I think you start talking about some of those other things, you can get distracted on what the most important thing is right now. And I think when you're playing an emotional game and a big game like this, the easy thing to do is say, let's just get to Saturday. Let me just get to the game. But we have to utilize every single minute. We have that countdown in our building, and every time a minute clicks off of that, there's one less minute for you to prepare for the game. So let's utilize every single minute we have to get ready to go, kick the ball off at noon so we're ready to roll.
You, in your head coaching career here, Ohio State's lost 4 games. Didn't play Bama again after that. Didn't play Oregon again after that. First game you guys lost, Clemson in that semifinal. You don't know that you're going to play them again, but you do get them the next year, and you guys are ready, and you win that game the second time. Is any of that instructive for this? That was an example of a year later, you get a team that had beaten you the year before, and how you guys handled that.
We haven't talked about that, but that was a different team and a different set of circumstances. But our guys know they felt the pain last year, and it led to simmer, and we had to chew on that for a whole year, and that's a long time. So we'll see what the corrections we've made. We'll see about the growth that we've made, and find out where we're at on Saturday. But I know you're going to get an excited team. But right now the focus is going to be on having an unbelievable week of practice, unbelievable week of preparation with our bodies, our minds, and our souls.
Right in front of him, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you guys emphasize this game year-round, and you've done it in the past. And a year after a loss, is that something you talk about more, less? Do you do more team up north drills? What's the balance in terms of sort of motivate year-round?
Yeah, there's a balance. We I won't get into exactly what we do, but yeah, I mean, there's a balance there. There's certainly, you need to be reminded of what happened in the past, but also the focus is on this team. The focus is on playing this team against their team on Saturday, because nothing else matters about that. But when you have that in the back of your mind, it certainly lights a fire every time it comes to the forefront of your mind.
Front row right, Tom Terry, WGNS, NTV.
Coach, we imagine the shoe will be rocking. Do you have a message for the fans that'll be in the stadium, and what would it be?
Yeah, just that we need to be as loud as we possibly can. We got to make it a hostile environment. Anytime they have the ball, we got to be as loud as we possibly can. This game has been going along for a lot longer than I've been here, but I know how much it means to so many people, and for all the people that are going to be in the stadium, if their presence can be felt, that helps the Buckeyes.
Right behind him, played all WSYX.
Ryan, did you change, other than senior tackle, change any other processes, the way you do your business each week?
No, I mean, that was the biggest change. We felt like last year things were a little bit rushed. We'd wake up in the morning, get in here, practice, have senior tackle, and then guys would be able to do their Thanksgiving. We decided to, move that. I know that there's been different, ways that they've done senior tackle here in the past. We decided to move that to really allow our guys to still have the afternoon with their families, but also spend more focused, more time on what really matters, and that's the game.
I know you have a checklist. How do you leave no stone unturned? Is it just plan your work, work your plan?
Not a lot of sleep.
How much will you get this week?
Not much.
Third or right, Cameron T. Robinson, the Athletic.
Ryan, last week, Teron and Ty both said when they took the field in the spring, they felt a completely different defensive line. Same guys, but they felt completely different. Did you see that at that time? And then if so, what was different about it?
I think our guys had a year under their belts. They played more. They won some games. They lost some games. They learned. They grew. They had a great offseason, and they're a year more mature. I think, that combined with, again, our scheme and those guys embracing the aggressive style of our defense. I think that's where you get that.
When you play young guys like you had to last year, you're going to have growing pains. But seeing the success some of those guys are having right now and the depth that you've been able to add, you don't ever want to lose, but you feel like some of that, I imagine some of that probably helped you guys.
No, I know what you're saying. It's when you're playing young players. We had a very young, but also an inexperienced team. Even the guys who were a little bit older last year hadn't played a whole bunch. There's growing pains with that, as we know, and so you hope that experience is invested time well spent. Because when you have those growing pains and you lose games, hopefully that you can cash in down the road from those learning experiences. We'll find out.
Right next door, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Has Dalton Hayden's play elevated himself to a point where, having him healthy and running with conviction is better than 80-85% of one of these other guys? I mean, they're not just playing because they can play.
I think it's definitely worth a conversation. Yeah. I mean, I think when you start to see and you put on the film and the film speaks for itself, you got to make that decision of who's the best guy in this moment to go put on the field.
Right behind him, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Man, this game already has a lot of emotions, and you added 11-0. It's 11-0, first time here in 4 years. How much do you have to balance with these guys' discipline, but also allowing them to be emotional and play with emotion, but not too emotional so you don't get a cheap personal foul or penalty that you're going to get?
Yeah, I think there's the emotion leading up to the game, which is I think what you're saying, and I think that's why we have to have our routine and not deviate from our routine, because it is such a big week. There's so much emotion involved with it. You have to build towards noon on Saturday, but we have to have a great week of practice and preparation. But then same thing, during the game you have to play with emotion. You can't let emotion play with you. And the three things that we've really spent a lot of time in terms of our identification this year is: 1 is toughness, 2 is discipline, and 3 is skill. And so, if you can play with toughness, but you don't have discipline, then it's no good. So those 3 areas are the areas that we have not deviated from all season. And, we're going to hold ourselves to that standard.
Deep center, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Ryan, you guys, have tried all year long to prevent any sort of complacency from stepping in or creeping into the program, but you're 11 games in and haven't completed one of the 3 goals that you set at the preseason, right? So how challenging has this season been? And does it feel like the season really starts now and that this has been the longest preseason in history?
It's when you say it like that, and I'm the one who says it, it can be sobering, but that's just the standard we hold ourselves to. I'm still very, very proud of what, how our team's grown and built to this point right here. But, we'll talk about that later. What we need to do is, we know these 3 goals were going to happen at the end of the season. If we played this game, the first game of the year, then we would have that challenge right then and there. But we know in order to get to the other two goals, we have to get this one, and we knew it going in. We knew that's why competitive stamina was a huge theme for us this season. Is you got to bring it every single week as you build and play your best football at the end of the season. So here we are. We've talked about it. It's another thing to do it, and so now we got to go put a great week together and try to accomplish this first goal.
Are you happy with like the competitive stamina of the team? Do you feel like you guys are playing the football level you want to be right now?
I think every week you grow and you build and you prepare, and each week is its own season. I just look at it like that. But along the way, you have to continue to grow and enhance, and we'll kind of find out at the end of the season. We'll have a chance to reflect on that. In the meantime, we're just going to work as hard as we can to get as prepared as possible to play this game on Saturday.
Fourth row right, Bill Bender, the Sporting News.
Coach, you guys haven't lost a Big Ten home game since 2015, and you mentioned the 100th year of the stadium. I mean, what to you, other than having a really good team, makes Ohio Stadium such a good home field advantage, especially in these Big Ten games? I mean, it showed up this year too. They haven't been close.
Well, first off, we have the best fans in the land. Our guys enjoy playing in our stadium. I think, it's a hostile environment. I think it's a hard place to play in, and I think that, our guys really enjoy being here, and I think, anytime you have all those things mixed up into one, then that's why you have what you have. So, and it's been a while since we played this game at home. I think what you said was it, I guess, four years. Yeah. So, and that's part of, what every Ohioan and person part of Buckeye Nation, wants to be a part of this game at home in the shoe. So, I know it's going to be an electric atmosphere.
Second row left, Stephen Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach. Just assessing the offensive line, it seemed the first half you guys had real problems getting the running game going the way that you wanted to. In the second half, with Dallin Hayden running behind the same offensive line, things worked out much better. Just how did you assess their play over the entire 4 quarters, and are they ready for this challenge this week, I guess?
I after watching the film, we had several guys grade out champions. I thought some guys played very well in the game. I think Maryland did a good job. They played really hard. They challenged, but I thought we gotten a little bit more rhythm, like you said, in the second half. I think a little bit of that was just blocking it a little bit cleaner, but I also thought that we hit the hole a little bit better as the game went on.
Right next door, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
I don't want to word this right here. I don't know how much you pay attention to what other programs say, what other people have said outside of this program, but you've emphasized toughness a lot this season, maybe more than any other season you've had. You guys have some of the leadership stuff in the summer, in the offseason, 2 leadership groups, and things were said after that Michigan game coming out of that program from coaches. How much of that were you aware of, and how much of that has been on your program's mind this offseason as you guys have kind of pushed some of the stuff, the leadership and the toughness stuff,
Sure.
and now you've approached things this season?
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing in a game like this, there's always going to be, back and forth and things said, and obviously you see things and read things, but there's also a lot of it you try to ignore. But sometimes it matters, who says it too, and how much, consideration you give it. But at the end of the day, we got beat in that game, and we had to figure out why that was. A lot of people have opinions when you lose a game, and we had to identify what was real and what wasn't, and try to go from there. But we certainly don't get caught up in other people's opinions. We cherish ours and try to make great decisions on how to move forward, and that's what we did.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS, TV.
When you go off the loss of last year and the bulletin board stuff and all of that, how tough can it be to rein in the emotions this week and make sure that you're not making this game bigger than it actually needs to be?
I think that's the balance you try to find. Yeah, is that it is extremely emotional, but you also have to go do a job and play a game. And if you get over emotional or you get too caught up in all that, then you can start to act out of character, and that can't happen. But we also know what's at stake. So there is a fine line there that we are going to find.
Front row, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Your two predecessors made their reputation in part on success in this game. You're 1-1. How much pressure do you feel personally, not just to coach them to win this game? I mean, how much pressure do you feel?
I mean, I think anytime you're here and you're playing in this game, you're going to feel it. Doesn't matter, what your record's been. You feel it anytime you're, at Ohio State because you know what's on the line. But, we're not going to sit here and start to think about all that. We're going to just really focus on, having a great week of preparation and playing really, really hard. And then, when it's all said and done, we'll look back and kind of see, where all the tally marks are. But to me, this has nothing to do with anything other than this team and just preparing this team to play as hard as we possibly can on Saturday and then going from there.
If you win, do you think it'll be more joy or relief?
I don't know. Maybe, after the game, we can kind of figure out where we're at again, and try to discuss that. But I'm just trying to focus on figuring out what to call on first, second down, third down, short yardage, goal line. And, because I think you can start to think about all those things like you're saying, which I think are all really valid questions. But it's like, what really matters right now? What matters is getting these guys a really good game plan, getting practice organized, and having a really good day. And that's what I'm going to focus on right now. And then we'll come up for air, on Saturday afternoon after the game.
Final questions, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Oh, thank you very much, Jerry. Oh, well, congratulations on that Buckeye leaf. When somebody says you're born on third base and think you hit a triple, where does that sit with you in insults you've endured during your career?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it right now. Maybe there's another time to hit on that. But like I said, there's certain things you listen to, there's certain things you don't. And anytime you're at a high profile game with a lot of stuff going on, there's a lot of things said. But there's a time and a place to talk about that, and it's not now.
Toughness is the word this week. It was taken into question last year after this game and stuff. Toughness of this football team. You've addressed that through the season and stuff. What has told you that this team is tough now, tough enough, so to speak? Obviously, the ultimate test comes Saturday, but and I'm looking at y'all. Y'all had at least 3 games go into the fourth quarter up in the air, and y'all won those games. That's as much a sign of toughness, I would think, as anything else. But what just tells you you've got a tough football team?
Well, when you talk to other coaches after the game, and just what do you think? And you get a lot of great feedback in that area. And you guys are playing hard, you're playing tough, you're playing physical. Guys are disciplined, they're where they're supposed to be, they're well coached. You hear all those things over and over again, and that just means that we've done it. So, we wanted to make it our identity. I think we've built that as the season's gone on, and but all that building was to get to right here.
But as a coach, you'd rather a game already be done at halftime, I would think. You know what I mean? But what does that, in retrospect, having to win games in the fourth quarter, do for a team from a standpoint of confidence, whatever you want to call it?
Well, it builds resilience. It builds that toughness. It builds that perseverance. That no matter what happens in the game, it's not going to go perfect. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep growing. You got to keep building. And your backs are up against the wall. What are you going to do? And we felt that a little bit here. Certainly the Rose Bowl was kind of the one there. We started to turn it a little bit, and then Notre Dame game, and then the Penn State game, and even last week. So, that resilience has been tested. And again, all these were trial runs for right now.
I goofed up. One last question. Bill Landis, rivals.
Brian, you saw, Chris Olave in this game at 18 as a true freshman make a real impact. I know Dallin has a larger body of work at this point than Chris did then, but what are the conversations like when you're trying to decide whether or not a relatively inexperienced true freshman can handle a spot like this?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think I mentioned that earlier, was that the blueprint's already there for guys like that, whether it was, Marvin and Emeka in the Rose Bowl, or, Garrett Wilson, back in 19 had a huge game there. Olave in 18, guys kind of build, and then hopefully you can count on them late in the season. So, we'll see. I think the number one job for Dallin is you got to take care of the football. That's the number one thing. Anytime we hand you the football, you got to take care of that, because turnovers are going to be huge in a game like this. So he's going to keep preparing and keep growing and keep building this week. And, you never quite are prepared, for a moment like this until you actually get in it, and I know because of, the way the game went in 17, when JT went down in the first, or had the knee, and, before the game even started, and Dwayne went in the game. So, But at the end of the day, I think like we talked about, it comes down to your preparation. You got to trust all your preparation up to this point and focus on just having a great week of practice.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, folks, we're going to transition right into
They
Coach
won.
Knowles here, and we're going to keep him for only 10 minutes. Going to open up the floor, front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals.
Jim, I asked last week about Tommy playing with one broken hand. I didn't realize that I needed to ask about the other one being broken. The toughness that he's showing, the way he's playing through that, beyond just trying to find ways for him to tackle, the toughness that he's shown, where does that rank among some of the guys you've worked with?
Tommy's as tough as they come, as tough as any player I've been around, and he kind of epitomizes what we want to be as a defense, and I think as a program, because nothing is going to stop him. No matter what the circumstance or the injury, he's going to show up.
Second row right, Doug Lamery, Cleveland.com.
Jim, what do you think of the rivalry?
It's a privilege to be a part of it. When you're a guy who works his way up to get to this spot, there's not time for reflection now, hopefully someday, but just to be a part of it is, I guess, when you're young and in the profession, you look at it as the pinnacle, of competition, and it's a privilege to be a part of it.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
Coach, you weren't here last year when all the talk of toughness and finesse hit, but there were a lot of conversations about this defense. How much do you hear that from these guys? How much do you try to, push these guys to lean into that and prove it on Saturday?
I don't hear it. I don't talk about it. Don't really think about it. I know the charge I was given when I got here, and we've taken off from there. And I know that toughness is a pivotal part of everything Coach Day does and Coach Mick does in the weight room. So, I've embraced it, and we're doing everything possible to carry that on defense.
Third row middle, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, you've been part of some pretty big rivalries. Bedlam, Bull, Colgate.
Penn is Cornell's rival, not Colgate. Come on. Yeah. Thanksgiving Day, man, for years.
How's this stack up for what you see? I know it's early in the week, and I know you guys don't like to compare, but I'm asking you to do so a little bit. Do they all have the same thread through them, whether it's dislike or guys not getting too emotional? How do you handle that, and what have you seen?
Yeah, there's the same thread through every rivalry I've ever been associated with of intensity. But this is it's the biggest stage there is. So you just take all that and you ramp it up by 1,000, and you go from there. You do everything you can to stay focused and do your job in the midst of it, because there's a job to do.
Right behind him, Andy Anders, Buckeye Sports Bulletin.
I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about what you see from J.J. McCarthy as far as his mobility. I know Talia had a couple scrambles last week that gave you some issues, kind of first mobile quarterback we've seen since DeJuan Finn, and how you kind of intend to keep him hemmed in.
Well, I mean, I think, we have a hard-charging, aggressive defensive line. And I think that anytime you have guys who really get after it, scrambling can be an issue. So we continue to work on it, I guess I'll say. We'll keep practicing. That's all. I mean, it's definitely an issue though when you have guys that are going to get after the quarterback, and I'm glad we have them. Now it's my job to fix it.
Second row left, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
whether it was Toledo, to follow up on that, whether it was Toledo, Maryland, even Penn State to a lesser degree, I don't think Clifford traveled that much, but how do you scheme for that when it's an element of a playmaker? He's just a playmaker. You did everything the right way, and then he got loose anyway, and instead of it being a 4-yard loss, it's a 14-yard game. I know you can coach it, how to contain it, but how do you actually scheme for something?
Well, you have different ways to do it. I'm not going to get technical here, but you put some plans together. But ultimately, it does come down to your athletes versus their athlete, and you just do everything you can to put guys into position, but it does become like controlled chaos, right? I mean, we try to make all these moves and chess pieces, and we think we're doing a good job of it, but it's hard to control the uncontrollable. So you give your guys the best shot, and then it's a matchup, and you go from there.
Fourth row right, Bill Bender, the Morning News.
I think you kind of answered it with the last question, but what does their rushing attack pose the biggest challenge for you guys in preparing for? And in all these years you've done this, is there another team who, I'm thinking like Kansas State or something, where you played them and it was really difficult to prepare for the way that they run the football?
Yeah, Kansas State in the Big 12. I certainly at Duke lived my share of option football with Army, Navy, and Georgia Tech, and it's difficult to simulate, the way that they run the ball. So you just got to go back to your habits and your training. You got, again, put guys in great position. Make sure everybody knows that everybody has to tackle. I think that's a mentality that goes, everybody has to tackle, because they're going to put corner, safety, anybody, they're going to put different people into position where you have to make the tackle. So it's really a mentality. You scheme against it, some difficult to practice. It's just a matter of habits and everything you've worked for to this point, in all your strength training and all of, the extra work you did over the summer. That all comes into play when push comes to shove.
Deep right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Jim, they run the ball a lot, obviously, but they also throw the ball to running backs out.
Excuse me.
Tight ends, put you in different matchups. How do you balance knowing how much you have to stop the run, but also understanding that out of the backfield they can really do some damage?
Yeah, well, they're a complete offense, and they challenge you in a lot of different ways. So, you have to have some different things that you can go to at different times to try to keep the offense off balance. That's really the only way to answer the question is, those points that you mentioned, the things that they do, and they do it well. You just got to counterattack, and that's what we've been working on all year.
Second row right, Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Jim,
Rivals.
You said maybe back in the spring that the jack position, Leo position, was first conceived as more of a run game disruptor than anything else. Does this game put that position in more of a spotlight with as much as Michigan likes to use pullers?
Yeah, I definitely feel that it is a tool, in our toolbox to be able to handle all the different things that an offense like this throws at you, and it's definitely a fix-it tool for us, and we've worked hard to get it ready.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
When you came here and we asked if you had watched tape of players, you said no, everything's a blank slate. How much did you study last year's Michigan game? And is there a way to quantify how much time you've put into preparing for this game?
I haven't put any time into last year's game, and there's no way to quantify the time that's gone into the preparation. It's just constant.
Right behind him, Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Just stepping back to last week, and I know that Maryland's offense and Michigan's offense very different. But the defense allowed 2 75-yard touchdown drives in the second half, but also kind of made some key stops. Just how did you evaluate that performance relative to how you feel this defense is sort of ready for this moment?
You know, I thought it was great when we made key stops and plays, and I thought it sucked when we didn't, you know. I mean, it's, you know, it's like, it's like, man, that, but the good part about it is, you're right. We were off on some things, and, I see it. We all see it, and we know we have to get better. But the good part is, I think the competitive excellence that coach always talks about, and the defense has developed that in key situations this year. We have not been perfect. I think we've trended upwards, but when the times have come that we needed to make plays, we have. So I think that's a good sign.
Front row, middle. Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, considering you were hired just a couple weeks after a loss to Michigan, and the loss where you guys gave up 42 points, what sort of, I guess, personal stakes, weight on your shoulder do you feel just going into this game for the first time?
The job is the job. It's like I've said before, the process for me is the same. It's just that the expectations are different, so you keep your process and your habits intact because that's what leads you to success. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to be numb not to feel it. You feel it, but you stay focused on the moment and what can I do to give us an advantage? That's really the only thing that's always on my mind, right? And for me to feel this or feel that, or it doesn't give me any advantage, so I want to always be pressing to find ways to give our defense an advantage.
Right next door, Tim May, Letterman Road.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. Jim, I'm just wondering, number one, are you perusing everything? Are you and your staff perusing everything to try to find out, is Blake Corum going to play or not? He is a special player. You understand? And then past that, his ability to hit the bounce to the outside, I think really sets him apart. I mean, he's tough and everything else, but what is the key to not getting burned by that? I mean, is it eye control, discipline, whatever? But in a game of this magnitude, how do you keep everybody from running to the fire, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. First question, we're not spending any time investigating whether he's playing or not, just assuming he's going to play. He's an exceptional back, like you said, very talented. And yeah, it has a lot to do with discipline, and understanding angles and taking your shot when you have it, but on the appropriate angle, and playing hard within the scheme. So a lot to do with discipline, because if you're out of place, he'll make you pay for it.
And final questions, fourth row right, Tony Gerben, Buckeye Huddle.
You said, what can you do to give you the guys an advantage? It's always the thing that's always on your mind. Where is it? Where's the most random place where it's been on your mind and you're like, oh, this might do something? Like at home, out, like how often does it come up?
It's never not on my mind, ever.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.